Have you ever noticed how we'll try just about anything to escape anxiety? Taking deep breaths, pretending everything's fine, even avoiding situations that make us uncomfortable. But what if I told you that this strategy is actually working against you? Yes, you might be doing it wrong. Anxiety isn't the enemy you need to conquer, and there's a simple secret that can completely change how you deal with it. Today, I'll show you how to face your emotions without being consumed by them, and it could change your life. So, are you ready to uncover what no one's ever told you? Introduction to the concept of willingness. Have you ever stopped to think that fighting your emotions is like trying to stop a storm with your hands? It's exhausting and pointless. Willingness is the key that unlocks a new way to handle what you're feeling. It's not about getting rid of emotions, but about accepting them. Imagine living without that constant sense of resisting what you can't control. It's not about giving up. It's about turning discomfort into fuel for a more authentic life. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to control everything. Anxiety, sadness, fear, we fight, we struggle, but it only feels like we're sinking deeper. What if, instead, you just allowed those emotions to exist without battling them? Willingness is all about creating a space for permission and acceptance that, surprisingly, feels far more freeing. Think about that nervous feeling before an important event. What if you saw it as a sign that something really matters to you? This idea might seem strange at first, but it makes sense when you realize that emotions are like waves. The more you try to hold them back, the harder they crash. So, instead of resisting, why not learn to surf? Willingness is like that imaginary surfboard, helping you ride through the turbulence with purpose. Speaking of purpose, you're going to love exploring the examples that bring this concept to life. Metaphors and illustrative examples. Imagine you're in a tug-of-war with your difficult emotions, holding on tightly, trying to win. But the harder you pull, the more exhausted you feel. Now, picture a tank full of sharks right beside you. Don't get anxious or you'll fall in. Sounds insane, doesn't it? That's what it's like trying to control anxiety by force. The real solution is to let go of the rope, not to fight harder. Now think about relationships. How many times have we tried to change someone's behavior, whether it's a partner or even a child? In the end, it usually leads to frustration and burnout. This shows us that we can't always control what's external, or even what's internal. Willingness is an invitation to step away from this fight and focus on what truly matters. And what about that speech at your best friend's wedding? Just thinking about it makes your hands sweat, your heart race, and you feel the urge to run away. But what if you viewed that anxiety as a sign of love and significance? By accepting the emotion instead of avoiding it, not only do you give the speech, but you also experience a meaningful moment. That's the transformative power of willingness. And this leads us to see how living in the present can be truly revolutionary. Characteristics of willingness. Being present is a superpower few people master. Have you noticed how the mind often drifts to the future or the past? Willingness teaches us to focus on the now without judgment. For instance, when you feel anger, why not describe how it shows up in your body? Maybe a tightness in your chest or warmth in your cheeks. Just observe it. This creates a powerful pause between feeling and reacting. This practice goes beyond simple acceptance. It invites you to explore with curiosity. Think of it as if you were a scientist analyzing your emotions for the first time. Anger, fear, joy, they all become fields of study. By making space for these feelings without resisting them, you uncover nuances you might have missed before. And in doing so, you gain greater control over your reactions. Flexibility is another cornerstone of willingness. Instead of fighting against the tide, you learn to navigate it. Emotions don't have to be your enemies. They're messengers. And even if it feels uncomfortable, accepting what arises can expand your capacity to handle life's challenges. Want a simple exercise? The next time something bothers you, ask yourself, What can I learn from this? This prepares us to practice the skill in real life. Practical exercises. Practice turns theory into real change. Start with your body. Try a wall sit, the exercise where you press your back against the wall and feel the burn. Notice how your legs ache, your breathing shifts, and your mind screams for you to stop. By observing these sensations without judgment, you train yourself to stay present, even in discomfort. Another approach is to explore your emotional reactions to unusual stimuli. For example, look at a challenging image, like the painting of the ugly Duchess. What do you feel? Disgust? Curiosity? Resist the urge to look away or criticize. Just describe what arises, like a scientist studying an experiment. And of course, there's working with everyday emotions. When you feel fear or anxiety, like when facing a challenge, give the feeling a name. Say, "This is fear," without attaching yourself to it. Ask yourself, how can I let this be here without it paralyzing me? These practices may seem simple, but they create space for a new way of living. This transformation becomes even more powerful when we understand the impacts of resistance. The impacts of resisting emotions. Resisting emotions is like trying to hold back a spring. The more you push, the harder it pushes back. When we avoid feeling something, we create a cycle that only intensifies the discomfort. For example, avoiding a difficult conversation might provide short-term relief, but anxiety grows as the issue lingers. This traps us in repetitive patterns. This resistance hardens the mind and limits our lives. Think about someone who avoids crowds because of fear. This cuts off opportunities, from social events to the chance to meet amazing people. When the focus is on avoiding emotions, behaviors become defensive, leading to a smaller, more rigid life. But what could be different if we made space for those emotions? What's more, the body pays the price for emotional resistance. Studies in neuroscience and psychology show how repressed emotions can manifest as psychosomatic illnesses. Constant tension can lead to chronic pain, insomnia, or even autoimmune conditions. Understanding these impacts is the first step toward change. And that change begins with discovering the benefits of accepting rather than resisting. The benefits of willingness. Accepting difficult emotions isn't weakness, it's strength. Willingness builds emotional resilience, allowing you to face challenges with greater clarity. Imagine going through a tense moment and, instead of running from it, embracing the discomfort. This strengthens your mind and aligns your actions with your values, like being a present friend or a reliable professional. This practice also increases emotional flexibility. By allowing emotions to exist, you reduce their impact on your daily life. For instance, feeling anxiety before a presentation doesn't have to mean paralysis. By accepting it, you stay focused on what really matters and act in line with your goals. This shift turns small moments into significant progress. A meaningful life begins when we stop avoiding and start fully living. Accepting emotions connects us with our purpose and gives us the freedom to choose actions based on what we truly value. Imagine what you could achieve if fear were no longer an obstacle. This vision becomes even clearer when we explore how the body and emotions are deeply connected. The relationship between the body and emotions. Have you ever felt your heart race before a big event or your stomach churn after unexpected news? That's your body translating emotions. The relationship between body and mind is inseparable. Emotions aren't just abstract ideas. They live in the body. Learning to listen to these physical messages is essential for improving emotional health. Your body can be a powerful anchor for managing emotions. For example, when you feel anxiety, observe how it manifests physically. Maybe it's tension in your shoulders or warmth in your face. Deep breathing, stretching, or even a short walk can help reconnect your mind to the present, easing some of the emotional impact on your body. This dialogue between body and emotions also works as a guide. By paying attention to physical sensations, you can identify patterns and anticipate emotional reactions. This not only increases self-awareness, but allows for a more compassionate approach to yourself. And with this solid foundation, you can explore strategies that make this practice even more effective. Techniques and complementary strategies. Facing difficult emotions is like building a muscle. It takes practice and progression. A good starting point is to create small challenges. For instance, if something makes you uncomfortable, like talking to strangers, try a simple step. Say hello to the cashier at the grocery store. These small steps build confidence for more complex situations. Another strategy is to use mindfulness exercises to tackle emotional triggers. A highly effective technique is the body scan. Close your eyes and focus on each part of your body, noticing sensations without judging them. This helps you stay calm and present, even in emotionally intense situations. Add this practice to your routine and notice how your emotional management improves. Making willingness a constant practice requires consistency. Turn everyday moments into opportunities to train. For example, while waiting in traffic or dealing with a delay, observe the emotions that arise and accept them. These small practices create a solid foundation for handling bigger challenges. And by learning to distinguish between acceptance and resistance, you unlock the full potential of the skill. Differentiating between willingness and resistance. Emotional resistance is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. Willingness, on the other hand, is about opening your hands and letting the water flow. It doesn't require effort to control. It's about accepting that emotions come and go. This creates space to act in alignment with your values, rather than being dominated by feelings. Resistance often leads to behaviors that seem helpful but only worsen the problem. Avoiding uncomfortable situations or suppressing emotions is like putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs air. In contrast, willingness allows you to face these moments, acknowledging them without fighting, like a friend who's just passing through. With willingness comes the freedom to live more fully. Resistance limits us, while acceptance strengthens us. Imagine the impact of shifting your mindset from "I can't handle this" to "I can feel this and keep going." This change opens doors to continuous growth, transforming your relationship with emotions and with yourself. Now that you know the secret to managing anxiety, what are you going to do with it? Will you keep resisting, pushing your emotions away, or will you start applying what you've learned here? The choice is yours, but remember, embracing discomfort is a bridge to a more meaningful life. And if you've made it this far, you already have the power to transform your emotional health. So tell me, what's your first step toward making this change? What habit or practice will you start today? Drop a comment below. I want to know how I can help you further. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications and join me on this journey. There's so much more to discover, and you won't want to miss it. Let's do this together.